Welcome to the Drop the Mic Wrestling Podcast on Tobacco Road Sports Radio and TobaccoRoadSportsRadio.com as part of the Wrestling Wednesday card. I'm your host, Michael Davis. It's an action-packed hour on Drop the Mic today. Mello don't miss, but Gable Stevenson does. The SummerSlam of Trilogies could lead to another big return at the event, and AEW celebrates its 200th episode of Dynamite tonight. For today's episode, we welcome in another Mike. First-time guest, Mike Milley, straight from the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling podcast, right now on Drop the Mic. Mike, how are you doing, man?
I'm doing fantastic, Mike. I want to say thank you so much for having me on Drop the Mic. We've got a lot of mics going on tonight. We've got Mike and Mike. We've got Drop the Mic. We've got Mouthing Off with Mike. There's a lot happening, and I'm here for it. Thanks for having me, boss.
Well, of course, and you're wearing a nice little shirt with your logo on it, don't you?
Yes, sir. Thank you very much for pointing it out. Had these made maybe a little prematurely, but hopefully one day there'll be a store and everyone can get their own Mouthing Off with Mike gear.
Well, when you start selling them, let me know. I'll want one. People walk up to me and they're like, "Is your podcast name Mouthing Off with Mike?" I'm like, "No, mine's Drop the Mic, but this was a really cool shirt."
I appreciate that, my man. Don't even worry. You don't have to pay for it. We'll get one sent over in the mail to you. Don't worry.
All the way from California?
All the way from Arizona. Close.
Arizona.
Yes, sir.
What part of Arizona?
We are in Phoenix, Arizona. We're in a town called Gilbert.
Gilbert. Does that mean you're a Cardinals fan?
I am not a Cardinals fan. I am, in fact, a Philadelphia Eagles fan, as I do have roots back to the East Coast.
Oh my gosh. Another Eagles fan? Oh no. Dude, how do I like not avoid you guys? Like we've had
We're
Chris
everywhere.
Cox on, who's an Eagles fan. John Cox is an Eagles fan. He's been on Out of Pocket on Fridays. Golly, come on, man.
We're everywhere, man. The Eagles nation runs deep throughout the country and even across the country too. So it's awesome.
That's gross. We'll get into football season here shortly. Hall of Fame games tomorrow night. The Jets and Browns. Who cares about those teams? But hey, football's back.
Football. That's it. It's football.
But we're in the thick of wrestling season right now. And actually, I wanted to mention that I found your podcast through Twitter, listened on Spotify a little bit. And the first ever episode I listened to was your preview for NXT's Great American Bash. And I thought it was very fitting that, we opened the show up today. Of course, we're going to dive into this weekend's SummerSlam. SummerSlam will be Saturday night on Peacock. They have the trilogy of Rollins, Balor, Rhodes, Lesnar, Reigns, Jey Uso, that triple main event. We'll also talk a little bit about AEW and their 200th episode of Dynamite a little later on. But the Great American Bash is what I want to open up with. And Gable Stevenson was signed to WWE, and he immediately jumped in, was drafted onto Monday Night Raw's roster, and then he just disappeared. He was finishing up college, and then he didn't debut, and he was just, nah. And then all of a sudden, it's announced that he's gone to NXT and would wrestle his first ever match in WWE against veteran Baron Corbin, who's gotten, I'd say, demoted to NXT. It's still a developmental third brand. That's up for debate a little bit.
That's up for debate. I'll debate that with you.
But Baron Corbin versus Gable Stevenson, everybody hates Baron Corbin. And Mike, I mentioned this on the Facebook page, the Wrestling Movement, that, me and a few other Tobacco Road personalities run over on Facebook. I mentioned that Gable Stevenson got booed by the crowd in favor of Baron Corbin. That doesn't look good.
That, to me, is I haven't been able to decide if I'm in the direction that the crowd liked Corbin, that they're maybe finally starting to, hey, cheer for Corbin because they always knew he had it in him, or if they just really don't like Gable. That's where I'm at on this. I don't feel there's either way. There's not really a lot of options you could go there. I just feel that one of the two there, where either the crowd liked Corbin that night and they liked his new song and his new gimmick, or they just really don't like Gable.
What do you think of Corbin's new song?
I like it. I mean, listen, in professional wrestling, and we've learned this from, I would say, two wrestlers really. Notably, I can think of with Chris Jericho constantly reinventing himself. He went with the List, and then he leaves the company, goes into AEW, and he becomes the Rainmaker or the Painmaker, excuse me. And then he's the Ocho. Now he's a sports entertainer in a wrestling company. And the same thing could said about Matt Hardy, where he evolved from being just the Hardy Boys and being a Hardy Boy to being broken, right? And that was one of the best storylines. So I think with wrestling, you have to evolve as the times go. And clearly with Corbin, I was a big fan of, the Lone Wolf Corbin in NXT during that time. And then the Happy Corbin stuff was okay when he was broke and had no money. That was funny. Then he just hit obscurity for me. And I think this is going to help him get revitalized. And maybe you said it's a demotion to developmental, but maybe that's what he needs to do. And he needs to get smaller eyes on him and see how this character plays out for him. What do you think about this?
Dude, I always thought Baron Corbin was underrated, in my opinion, because what you need to do as a heel, you need to get heat. And he got heat. Like, it's not like he was a bad wrestler. He had some cool moves, very innovative in the ring, but he wasn't striking. He wasn't
Yeah.
getting that push. Honestly, I think one of the worst career moves was him losing Money in the Bank. That cash in to John Cena. They put that briefcase on him a little too early, and then they got strapped, and then he had him lose to John Cena. It was just like it faltered, and he was never able to recover. The Lone Wolf was peak Corbin. Like,
Yeah.
looking back to NXT, the crowd was counting the second
Oh, yeah.
in terms of Corbin winning the match. Like, it was so over. But when I looked at Gable Stevenson, man, like, it is not a good sign. Like, you've had all this hype ever since you were rumored to join WWE. You wait all this time for a match, and then you come up with that where it's like, Grant is your first match. Like, you're not going to be like Kurt Angle, or you're not going to be Brock Lesnar. But come on, man. If the fans aren't buying into you, like, his brother, Damon Kemp, is doing a lot better than Gable right now. And Mike,
Yeah.
I think that's a problem.
I think you hit the nail right on the head 100%, Mike, where I think the expectation was set too high upon him in his announcement to signing with WWE. It was, here's Olympic gold medalist, wrestler, NCAA division champion, fill in all of the accolades you can think of when it comes to a college wrestler, right? They build him, they put him in the same bracket as Kurt Angle. Kurt Angle is a once in a lifetime transition. Like, you'll never see a wrestler transition as well as Kurt Angle did and amass the accolades he did in the stretch he did. And then he was gone just like that. Like, boom. Before you knew it, Kurt Angle was in Impact and doing his thing there. But just from that time alone, I think the expectation was set so high upon it. And then anything minus a marquee match on Raw or a big time pay per view for Gable in his debut was going to leave us with the crowd feeling some sort of animosity towards him in his debut match when it's taking place, especially in quote unquote developmental of NXT. So I think the expectation was set way too high. You put all your bread in the basket of saying he's the next Kurt Angle. We know it. And it didn't work out that well. So now what do? You have to keep him in NXT now and develop him. That's my take on it.
And honestly, like, didn't put him in a good position. Like, yes, he faced against a Baron Corbin, but if you look at wrestlers who got skyrocketed into a high profile match, think of Dominic Mysterio. Dominic Mysterio, his first match, against Seth Rollins. But
yeah,
Dom really was working tag team matches where he was with his father doing a lot of the workload, and Dom was able to learn.
Yeah.
And now Dominic Mysterio has captured his first singles title. He is the NXT North American champion. And I was very like adamant about, okay, he won this because Judgment Day is getting all the gold, but also they needed a bigger name on this Great American Bash card. Well, Dominic Mysterio comes in this weekend and he retains the North American title. What do you think of them using Dominic Mysterio in NXT, and how long do you think this stays as him being North American champion?
Well, I first and foremost, I actually said it on one of the earliest episodes of my show where I had said Dom was lucky to have the father he had because he was able to debut on the main roster. And that's, hey,
Now,
if I had
now,
family.
now, was this Eddie Guerrero or Rey
This is
Mysterio?
I'm speaking legitimate father as in Ray. Um, you know, where he had that ability to be in that spot and be with his father, which is great. And heck, if I had family in wrestling, I would certainly want to tag with my father too. I think he should have started NXT all along. I think the better story would have been Dominic coming in as a rookie to NXT, working through NXT, the developmental, maybe winning gold back then, maybe as a face, and then coming to the main roster and then tagging with his father and inevitably having that kind of run. I think they expedited it because they weren't sure what Ray was going to do, if he was going to stay wrestling. He's 50 years old and most recently, did get concussed Friday. So, thoughts and a speedy recovery to Ray. But I guess at that time they didn't know. And I personally love Ray, and I personally love Dom in NXT. And I think the Judgment Day being on NXT is fantastic because it solidifies that Judgment Day supremacy across everything. And I think Dom is going to hold the title until No Mercy, where I think we're going to start seeing some challengers, whether Mustafa Ali, Wes Lee comes into the picture, or some other NXT men that we haven't seen in the mid card title picture yet. I think we're going to see maybe a multi-man match at No Mercy where the Judgment Day and Rhea may not be able to save Dom from his self.
That multi-man match would also protect Dominic Mysterio, getting him to
Exactly.
lose the title and then just continue on Monday Night Raw with Judgment Day, because Dom's not going full-fledged NXT at this point.
No, it's going to be a part-time thing where while he's the title holder, they're going to show up on TV and do their thing and showcase how dominant Judgment Day will be. Probably elevate some of the talent like we saw with Rhea and Lyra Valkyrie last week in that match where Rhea showed her the respect and helped really, I guess, make Lyra for NXT now. Now I feel that Lyra is a possible contender for Tiffany Stratton's title.
Yep. Tiffany Stratton retaining the title this past weekend at Great American Bash against Thea Hale. Honestly, rebuilding that women's division since Mandy Rose's departure last December. But I was expecting a title change this week because I honestly thought, Mike, this was the perfect opportunity for Carmelo Hayes to drop the NXT title to Ilya Dragunov, because we did see the tease with Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams meeting with Bobby Lashley at SmackDown. Okay, there might be another Hurt Business forming, but I was shocked to see Carmelo Hayes retain the title against Ilya Dragunov. Do you think this was the right decision, or NXT missed their chance?
See, I'm a big Carmelo Hayes. I'm a big fan. I think he really is someone that has that potential to be a top name on the main roster. I think he could be a guy that you could see in the marquee lights at WrestleMania. I really think so. And I know a lot of people get on him about the height thing and everything, but looking past that, from a pure talent, from athleticism in the ring, from promos, the guy's got everything. He's the total picture. So I think it was the right call to have him retain the title. And I think it was the right call in the match that they had. Now we saw some antics, we don't know if Ilya headbutted Trick when Trick was holding the belt at the end of the match, which helped Mello, hit the finisher to win. So advancing the story between Mello and Ilya now, I think, is the way to go. And I think you could set this up as maybe their own trilogy. And then when the time is right, maybe Mello hits the main roster. Him and Ilya go back and forth for a couple matches.
That would be interesting. WWE loves their trilogies, of course. And, we would be remiss without saying, what happened last night on NXT with Carmelo Hayes and Trick Williams. Mike, I'm shocked because, I sent you, earlier, Tuesday afternoon of like, hey, here's what we're doing, here's what we're talking about Wednesday afternoon as part of the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast. Like, okay, Carmelo won. Who do you think is the next challenger? We saw a little spat between Carmelo Hayes and Wes Lee last night on NXT as part of their tag team match. Wes accidentally hit Carmelo Hayes, actually. But backstage, towards the beginning of the show, Trick's like, hey, Mello, I got to be my own man. And they split. And I'm just like, what's going on? Like, can we make sense of this?
I'm speechless. I'm still speechless. We're days removed now, and I don't know how I feel going into NXT next week without seeing the pairing of Mello and Trick, because those two were money together. Like they were peanut butter and jelly, man. They just fit. It was a beautiful pairing. They played off each other so well, but in all times, it comes down to it where a man's got to try and fight for himself, and I think that's what Trick's headed towards. So, could a next challenger be Trick and Mello down the line? Could we see that? I don't know.
I don't know if Trick's like can take that step to being like the guy in NXT, but I'd be so down for a Carmelo and Trick main event for the NXT title.
I would absolutely love that. If given the time, I think Trick has showcased how well he does on the mic, and he's had a few solid matches so far in this year. I think given some time, we could really see Trick develop into his own, and maybe there's something there too. Maybe you had the best pairing and maybe you break them up. Now you've got two of the best singles guys in NXT. I guess we'll see.
And also, like, could go saying, like, we thought that, Street Profits, Carmelo, Trick were supposed to be a part of whatever Bobby Lashley's forming on SmackDown. And now that Trick's, no longer aligned with Carmelo, maybe Trick just gets left on the NXT brand and Carmelo gets the call up. Like, there's so much that could happen right there.
There's a lot of different stories that could stem just from them breaking up. And I think with Shawn Michaels, with the pen backstage creating this and booking this, I think the sky is really the limit for this. So I agree. I think you could go 100 different directions with this, especially with the stuff they tease with Bobby Lashley, the stuff that they said now with Trick and Mello's taking place on NXT. You've got Wes Lee now in the mix, transitioning into the title picture. And you also have so much talent there. So I think right off the top of our heads, there's 3 different stories you could go with, really.
Yeah, we'll have to keep tuning in Tuesday nights NXT to figure out where it goes. Mike from the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling podcast, we got our little mickers with our names, is joined Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast this week, talking a little bit about the NXT Great American Bash and previewing SummerSlam. It's time to preview this weekend's event, SummerSlam in Detroit this year, and they've announced they've got a lot of matches, so we'll try to get through all these matches. They announced a SummerSlam Battle Royal this past week. A lot of fans were upset that LA Knight wasn't in the United States Championship Finals, where it was Santos Escobar and Rey Mysterio. Rey obviously getting legitimately hurt and concussed during that match. Again, thinking of him. But LA Knights in the SummerSlam Battle Royal, Sheamus, Tommaso Ciampa, Shinsuke Nakamura, Alpha Academy. Those are the names that are confirmed for the SummerSlam Battle Royal right now. Mike, I can't help but think this match was just to try to calm the LA Knight fans down for being left off SummerSlam after he was left off of WrestleMania in LA.
In LA.
Yeah.
Yeah. When you got a guy who can convey an audience the way he's done in such a short time, his NXT stuff, obviously sometimes you have to consider that the main roster audience does not watch NXT. So for us diehard fans of wrestling, we're probably watching NXT. We know a little bit more about LA Knight. If you watch Impact from back a couple years ago, I'm sure you have known LA Knight, Eli Drake, so
Drake.
exactly. So we've known of him. And it's after having to get through one of the worst gimmicks with the Maximum Male Models thing, and then finally become himself and get over organically. And then you leave him off WrestleMania. You leave him off Backlash. You leave him off Night of Champions. He's in the crowd. And then you're at Money in the Bank. The fans are clamoring for him to win the briefcase, which Priest deserved it. I 100% agree. Priest deserved it. But when you got this guy that's over, you gotta pull it. You have to pull the trigger on this guy. You have to give him a match on a big card. And I think you're right. Yeah. Was this battle royal made for LA Knight? I think so. Yeah.
Yeah. Honestly, like he needs to be in a more high profile match. And there's not even a United States title match on this card. It could
A shame.
very well like put Austin Theory versus LA Knight. And even if you don't put the strap on LA Knight, even if Theory like squeaks by, very dirtily, at least you put him on the show.
Right. He got a singles titles opportunity on the Big 5 pay-per-view. So yeah, I agree. I think not having the US title on the show, not having few matches that they left off the show on SummerSlam was a bad decision. And to do the Battle Royal, yeah, you're going to get more talent on the show, but there were other stories that should have taken precedent over the Battle Royal to appease the LA Knight fans. And I'm an LA Knight fan myself, but I think with Ray and Santos Escobar not getting the proper time, I think there should have been something where they pulled a quick one and said, okay, well, because of the match not really having a decisive winner, Santos takes on LA Knight to determine this, or they make it a triple threat for the Friday before SummerSlam. Or what about a pre-show? If the Battle Royal's on the pre-show,
Easy.
why can't the US title be on the pre-show? Or so it was just a weird decision. And then I don't want to get on a tangent on your show, but to have a Battle Royal in place of a feud that's been going on for 4 months, and I have been going nuts about this since last night or for a couple nights ago on Raw, to have the Battle Royal, which is cool, but to not have Becky and Trish
Oh my
on the
gosh.
card, this feud, a legend, a Hall of Famer, a future Hall of Famer with Becky, to leave them completely off the card, forget about Raquel and Rhea, but to leave that match, one that's been building since WrestleMania, that's where I will mouth off with you gladly, where that was a poor decision. Yeah, the Battle Royal is cool. I think it'll be fun, but that match being left off was not the right decision.
Trish Stratus and Becky Lynch should have a spot on this show. Like, I went to a Monday Night Raw in Greensboro, like back in May, and it was like in the heat of Becky versus Trish, and it was like we keep waiting for this like payoff.
Yeah.
Money in the Bank happens, and we keep waiting for this payoff that didn't happen in London. So you're like, oh, they're just holding off for SummerSlam,
Yeah.
and then they don't give it to us. So
Now it's
like,
going to take place on a Raw in Canada in 2 weeks. Really? That match?
yeah. I know you want eyes on the weekly product, but
Yeah.
that wasn't it. Nah. To
Nah,
quote LA
nah,
Knight.
nah. Sorry to get
Um,
on a tangent, my man.
But of course, we don't have Becky Lynch versus Trish Stratus, but we have Ricochet versus Logan Paul. I mean,
I'm
Mike,
excited for the match. I'm excited for Ricochet to have a highlighted singles match on a pay-per-view. That's the only thing I'm excited for. The whole Logan Paul thing, throw it out the window.
yeah, I'm not a Logan Paul guy. I'm happy for Ricochet because, again, I think this is Ricochet's first like one-on-one match. He might have had something with the Intercontinental title on pay-per-view, but this is like, okay, they've actually given this time over the last few weeks. Do you think Ricochet beats Logan Paul?
Oh man, it's tough. After Monday Night Raw this week and the comments Logan made about, oh, your girl's going to be announcing my name as the winner of the match, I really want Ricochet to win, of course. Logan's taken a few big L's recently, though. He lost at WrestleMania. He lost at Money in the Bank. So
Thank you, by the way.
yeah, seriously. Is Logan due for a win here? Possibly. This is one where when I look at my predictions, I can't tell you right now. I'm torn here. I think I lean towards Logan, but my heart wants Ricochet.
Yeah, I really want Ricochet because this would be such a big win to propel him to whatever he needs to do. Heck, if Ricochet beats Logan Paul, then he could easily be like, "Hey, Gunther, before you pass Honky Tonk Man," which we'll talk about Gunther versus McIntyre a little later. Then hey, maybe I'm the one to stop this from happening since you stopped my title reign. Like it would put Ricochet in that legitimacy for a contender.
Yeah, I think valid point to bring the story full circle back to when Ricochet lost the title to Gunther. I think it was on a SmackDown Christmas time, which right then and there, if poor Ricochet, when he was the Intercontinental Champion, is losing his title on a SmackDown, and now you're talking all this time later, he's got a match with Logan on SummerSlam. Yeah, thank the wrestling heavens above for that. But it does scare me where I think they're going to give a win to Logan Paul, or maybe Ricochet gets one up on him. I guess I'll have to find out what they decide to do with that one.
And then put Logan Paul in the World Heavyweight title picture because why not?
I really
I
I
hate
could
the guy.
swore he was going to win Money in the Bank just to set up that Seth Logan world title picture, scenario where Logan comes back and gets the title from Seth. I'm happy it didn't happen. Listen, he's a natural born heel, man. You hate him because you do. Like from talking his history with the internet, his personality, some of the stuff you've seen. I respect the guy, but also, yeah, he's a natural born heel, and you want to not like him.
He's terrible, and it's so awful. But Ricochet and Logan Paul get a singles match. Shayna Baszler getting a singles match on a pay-per-view right now. It's Shayna Baszler versus Ronda Rousey. Everyone kind of heard the rumors on the internet, but was shocked when it actually happened that Ronda Rousey, and Shayna Baszler turned on each other. And now that set up a SummerSlam match. It's one of the two women's matches, Becky and Trish not being there, Rhea not defending her Raw women's title or whatever it's called now. But we do get Ronda Rousey versus Shayna Baszler. And this was requested by Ronda Rousey, taking a peek behind the curtain, which begs the question, is this Ronda Rousey's final match? What could be next for both Rousey and Baszler following this weekend?
Oh man, you're asking the hard hitting question. Yeah, I did see those rumors, of possibly Ronda departing for a little bit for a stretch of time after SummerSlam. I mean, what better opponent to have than Shayna, her friend, longtime trainer. We saw the video package on Monday Night Raw, which will I say was the best piece of promo work we've seen from Ronda since her debut. And all it took was you guys just needed to do a video promo and actually give her things to say and be able to redo it if she stumbles. So big props to the production team for actually doing that this past Monday on Raw. I think if Shayna wins, Ronda's gone. And what better way to propel Shayna into the title picture than with a big win against Ronda? If Ronda wins, she's not going anywhere.
And also, what better way to go out on your back?
Yeah.
Batista did the same thing with Triple H. Triple H didn't need the rub like Shayna needs the rub this weekend, but it's one of those class acts hey, this is your final match, propel somebody else into that stardom role.
You have to do the job on the way out, do the business, right? As the inside term is, right?
Yeah. Now I'm hoping that fans don't turn on this match because they're catching whiff of Ronda leaving, similar to Lesnar Goldberg back in 2004 with WrestleMania 20. I don't think it happens though, only because Shayna's probably sticking around.
Yeah, I don't think the fans will turn on it. I think if anything, the intentions probably at first were to have Shayna as the heel and Ronda as the face. But the crowd naturally responded to Shayna as the face and Ronda as the heel here. So I like that midway through the storytelling, they switched that around basically, where they made it, look like, okay, Ronda's been taking advantage of Shayna this whole time, where Ronda wasn't really a very good friend. She never helped Shayna with training. They said it in that video. Shayna herself said it, where was she when I needed a training partner, when I needed a sparring partner? She was nowhere to be found. So I like that they switched that around. And I think with the MMA rules aspect of the match as well, since that was announced, that stipulation on Raw, I think that adds a whole other level to this, because now they're going to be able to actually go out there and maybe shoot a little bit. Maybe you see some real punches from the lady. Maybe you see a little blood from the ladies. I don't know. I'm just
A
shooting.
broken nose or something.
Maybe they decide to go out and lean into the MMA aspect, and those two throw a couple real punches at each other. Hopefully not another brawl for all scenario, but you never know.
And I'm glad you mentioned the MMA rules aspect to the Rousey Baszler that was added to this card. Like, that's their specialty. They're not professional wrestlers. They're not sports entertainers. They are MMA fighters. And I think that's going to dive into those strengths where the fans, if they really lean into it, like you're saying, they're going to be like, ooh, like, it's going to be incredible. Like, this match is not going to be the same as the match between Asuka, Charlotte Flair, and Bianca Belair. That match for, what was the SmackDown women's title, now it's the WWE women's title. Not like there's one on, Monday Night Raw or whatever. They messed that whole title situation up. I'm not going to dive into that again on this podcast. But Asuka, is champion right now, but easily they could put the title back on Charlotte. They could put the title back on Bianca Belair. Who wins this match? Because I think it's really split, like, and any of these ladies can take it. But I'm going to ask you in a different way of, like, not necessarily who wins, but whose title reign would you be more interested in seeing? What do you think would benefit SmackDown the most?
What would benefit SmackDown the most? Well, I will say the winners of this match are going to be us, the fans, because this is a dream match for me. Triple threat, Asuka, Bianca, Charlotte, 3 of the top women in the industry. Whew, sign me up, Now, what title reign do I want to see? My heart, I want to see Asuka retain the title. And the reason for that is because Asuka, she's consistent. She was always the woman where when they needed a woman to be the champ, they were like, all right, we have to put Asuka in that situation, right? Prime example, Becky, pregnant, wins Money in the Bank. Instead of actually cashing in, here's the title in the briefcase, right? Right now, does it feel that Asuka is in a transition champion phase because they didn't want Charlotte to pin Bianca? That's a possibility. But we also have to keep in mind, and I don't know if you're aware of this, someone in this match has an undefeated streak at SummerSlam. Charlotte Flair. She hasn't lost at SummerSlam. All signs to me point to Charlotte winning and then inevitably setting up Bianca and Charlotte for WrestleMania. But Io is in the mix here too. They've done a great job at teasing any 4 of these women can walk out of SummerSlam as the champ. I like Asuka's title reign, and I think if they dive deeper into her reign and spotlight her a little bit more than they spotlight Charlotte and Bianca, you could have another money Asuka title reign like she had in NXT. Easily.
Man, dude, there's so many, like, dominoes that can fall, and you highlighted so many with Io Sky. I feel like it's a little too early to, have Io cash it in. She's already the second longest reigning Miss Money in the Bank in history. Carmella, everybody else cashed in within like 2 days of winning the contract.
The day of. Yeah. I was actually at that Liv Morgan cash in.
No way.
Happened. Yeah, that was a crazy one, man. We were hot for Liv that whole match. Like, Money in the Bank, and then when she came out, oh man, that place was crazy.
Dude, well deserved. But yeah, I see Charlotte winning. Like, if I'm like, it could go any way, but I'm like, Charlotte, Asuka, and then Bianca. Bianca is like, she could win it, but it's like, we just had her reign. She was champion for a long time. Why not just have her? Yeah, why not just have her on the match, in case, some shenanigans happens and you don't want Asuka to eat the pin or Charlotte, boom, Bianca probably eats the pin on that one. But it's pretty tough. I might have to like make a last second, call, Saturday afternoon, be like, oh, maybe Asuka does retain the title.
I'll be pulling a Booker T on my predictions, and I'll just constantly change it. When they ask Book, Book, who do you think's going to win the match? I think they got this, and then it's 5 minutes later, I think he's going to win. That's my winner. That's my new winner. So I think that's how I feel on this one, where it's like today, right now, with you, I'll tell you I think Charlotte's going to win. Friday, I might tell you I think Io is going to cash in. It's all over the place for me.
Hey, whatever happens, shucky ducky quack quack, as Booker T would
Absolutely. Let's get busy.
Tell me he didn't just say that.
Say that. He's the best, man.
He is great. Booker T, one of the greatest, wrestlers of all time, especially like mid card, being a stay in the mid card with WWE. And speaking of the mid card, we do have the Intercontinental Championship match where Gunther defends the title against Drew McIntyre. Gunther is inching closer and closer day by day to Honky Tonk Man's record. So honestly, like, I don't know if you like just throw something like crazy at me. Gunther's winning this one, right?
Oh, 100%. Gunther's winning.
Okay. So
Gunther's winning.
So my question is, this is Drew McIntyre's first pay-per-view back. It's his first like singles match. How are you going to make him look strong? Or do you let him eat the pin clean to Gunther?
Easy. You could do this two ways. Imperium interferes, or if you want, and if the rumors are true, I try not to stay out of the rumors and the nonsense swirling around on the the dirt sheets. But if you look at some of the rumors that Drew might be turning heel soon, what a better way to do it than have Riddle mess Drew up. Riddle comes out because Imperium's messing with Drew. He tries to help Drew because he knows what it's been like. Riddle causes Drew to lose inadvertently. Drew just snaps. And then when you go on a Drew Riddle run here for like a month or two, and Drew just dominates and that's it. Then you put Drew back in the world championship picture with whoever the champion may be after SummerSlam. That's my prediction. So maybe a little wild here.
Mouthing off with Mike, we might just need to hand you the pin right there. Get to you, write the script while you can't. That would give Riddle something to do. Obviously, there's reports that WWE's not pushing him because of personal decisions. I feel like I could go off for like another 15 minutes just off that report alone. Unfortunately, we don't have the chance to. But yeah, that sets up really good. Like that there.
I hope that's something. I hope so. I hope they figure it out, honestly. Yeah.
Was it on layaway at all?
No, never. Yeah, so I hope so.
Yeah, it's Gunther's match. See what happens there, and then we get into the SummerSlam of trilogies. We have three main events, triple main events that are all finalizing the trilogy of their selective matches. One dating as far back as the inception of the Universal Championship back in 2016, where Seth Rollins and Finn Balor wrestled for the inaugural Universal title, and then Balor wins, vacates the title 24 hours later due to injury, and now we've circled back to where it all started 7 years later, and Seth Rollins versus Finn Balor for the World Heavyweight Championship, a title a lot of fans, including myself, wanted to be brought back. This is incredible storytelling, Mike, about how you get from that point 7 years ago all the way back here. Both of these guys have went through ups, went through downs. Finn Balor went back to NXT to reinvent himself. Finn Balor gets put with Judgment Day. Judgment Day's getting pushed now, and with Damian Priest lurking with the Money in the Bank briefcase, Finn Balor competing for what would be his first world title since that night 7 years ago. Like, so much has went into this story, and it's making me believe that there's a legitimate chance that Finn Balor walks out of SummerSlam as the new World Heavyweight Champion. My Friday show is called Out of Pocket. Please tell me I am not out of pocket with that take.
Oh, absolutely not. You're not out of pocket at all. I think, if anything, I mean, what better way to wrap up the story than 7 years later, SummerSlam, where it all started? Finn finally wins, but then, like you said, Damian Priest, Senor Money in the Bank is right there. Could you see Finn have a similar fate to his Universal title reign? And then now you have a whole nother new story where Finn finally completes a 7-year long story arc only to lose the title in a minute to his friend. Like, there, people are really focused on the bloodline, and that is money. You know, as the community says, cinema, right? Everyone uses that cinema joke, right? But this right here is an underrated storyline. It's going past a lot of people's eyes because, you know, maybe they're kind of like, whatever. Everyone's so focused on Roman. But this right here, if you were to look at this in a couple years, you're going to look back at this feud and you're going to say, you know what, that could hold a candle to a lot of what you've seen in the modern era rivalry wise. And on top of that, I think it is a completely plausible idea that Finn wins.
Dude,
I think
could happen.
I think it's in the ballpark. Like, it's a 50-50 chance at this point, especially if the Judgment Day get involved. Then you're talking, yeah, I think so. But the Money in the Bank briefcase, they've created a nice story for us, really, where it's like this story could end and then a new one could pick up, or the story could be a different direction altogether. Maybe Finn loses clean and that's it. Priest doesn't cash in. Who knows? But I think it's plausible.
I feel like they'd miss the boat if Balor doesn't win, because look what they have. They have Dom as North American champion, Rhea as whatever they're calling it now,
Women's
World Championship. How that's different than the Women's Championship.
Yeah.
Beats me. Damian Priest, Money in the Bank. And then the only other one missing is Finn Balor with the World Heavyweight title. And Seth was a great first champion back in the World Heavyweight title lineage. But if you can have weeks, maybe months, building up of Judgment Day, holding all the power, all the control, but Damian Priest lurking and deciding when he's going to cash in the briefcase, maybe even do SummerSlam Judgment Day versus Bloodline if they heal the bloodline before
Survivor
then.
Series, like War Games type of deal.
Yes. And then Damian Priest is lurking, like, do I cash in on Finn? Do I cash in on Roman? Like, you could build this so well that if Seth beats Finn Balor this weekend, a lot of opportunities go out the window.
Yeah, I think a lot of opportunities go out the window, but also when a window closes, right, a door could open, or when a door closes, a window opens, right? I still think Finn will win, but I think there's going to be shenanigans involved for sure. Like, I don't know if Finn leaves with the title, or on the counterpoint, maybe Finn does lose, and then that's really what makes Finn go crazy and resent the Judgment Day, is because everyone's got gold and he's got nothing. And that could make a lot of ways. I'll let them, the writers, handle this one. This one, I don't think I could write any better than what they got going on.
Hey, I did give you the pin. That's okay.
Yeah, it's right here. I got to give it back to them.
Appreciate that. But yeah, Seth Rollins, Finn Balor, one of the 3 trilogies that will wrap up this weekend at SummerSlam. The other one, not for a title, but it's Cody Rhodes versus Brock Lesnar. A lot of people have, been upset about, this feud going on. I think this is exactly what Cody needs to get put back into world title picture. Like, yeah, thank you. Yeah, you can clap when I talk.
Absolutely, Mike. I agree 110%.
But one of the big things is, like, if Cody beats Brock, which should happen, Agreed?
Yeah, agreed.
Yeah. If Brock wins, there's something wrong. But Cody isn't immediately going to jump back to Roman, or I think the World Heavyweight title would still come across as a consolation prize. So you got to put something else in front of him. There's rumors going on right now, Mike, that a certain individual could return. Some of those reports indicate Randy Orton, but I have heard Bray Wyatt. If Bray Wyatt returns, put him in a feud with Cody Rhodes, and then you could give Cody a stumbling block back to the world title picture, but also you could rehabilitate Bray Wyatt's reputation and career. That's where my mind's at. What do you think about that? Mouth off real quick.
It's funny you say that because I when I do my WWE episodes for the show, I call them "Are You Not Sports Entertained?" On my most recent "Are You Not Sports Entertained" episode, my final mouth off, which is a segment I do on my show where I just mouth off about anything and anything. We can throw one in here if you're inclined later if we have the time. But I actually broke down this and I said, what better way to transition a story from a physical beat down? All it is two guys just beating each other up. What better way to transition from a physical story, but into a mental story, a psychological story? And you said it best. Cody right now is over. He is the top baby face of the company, followed by LA Knight, Roman, yada, 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 Seth, everybody else, right? Cody Rhodes is that baby face. A feud with Cody does wonders for people. Dom just lost to Cody, and Dom just won a title, and he's the most heated individual in WWE right now. That loss did not hurt Dom whatsoever. So even if Cody was to beat Bray in a potential feud, it's not going to hurt Bray because it really, like you said, rehabilitates him. And when you have such a good guy like Cody, you could really tap into turning Bray into that bad heel he used to be. Maybe we get the original Bray back, or they do something, a transition of both, what we saw with the Fiend, the Firefly Funhouse, whatever it may be. But I think that's 100% right. I think that is one direction to go that I think would be money and elevate Cody, keep him busy till Roman or whoever the champ is free, and then get Bray right back in the fold and get much needed momentum for him.
Dude, it would be awesome. I would love it.
Oh,
It'd be incredible. We got about maybe 8-10 minutes left here on the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast as part of your Wrestling Wednesday lineup. I'm with another Mike from the Mouthing Off with Mike wrestling podcast. I got the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast, so I was like, we got to do a collab. You got to go check his stuff out on Spotify. But we have one more match to talk about before we wrap up the show, and we have Roman Reigns, the undisputed WWE Universal Heavyweight Champion, facing off against his cousin Jey Uso. Their trilogy this weekend. Roman's won the first two, but Jey beat Roman in that tag match. The first time Roman's been pinned since December 2019. The world was normal the last time that Roman Reigns got pinned. Like, the world was normal. Roman Reigns was also the big dog and walking around with his shield gear. So a lot worse version of Roman, but the world was normal last time that happened. Jey pins him, shocks the entire world. And now it's set up for tribal combat for not only the title, but also recognition as the tribal chief. There's a lot to dissect here that we could honestly spend an hour on, Mike, but I think Solo gets involved. Jimmy Uso, this would be a good opportunity for him to return. Everybody pop off, when he comes to help. Do you see any of these guys or anyone else from the bloodline getting involved? And how realistic do you think it is that Jey Uso beats Roman Reigns this weekend for the title? Because there's been believable opponents that haven't done it. Drew McIntyre, Sami Zayn, Cody Rhodes. Is Jey Uso in that category right now?
ah, from the videos and the promos and the segments on SmackDown with Jey would lead you to believe that, yes, if you're a fan, you're buying into it. I buy into it. Hey, you call me whatever, but I think, is it plausible? Yes. I mean, they built him as the only person to pin him, albeit it's a tag team competition or tag team match back at Money in the Bank. But yeah, I think there's a chance. And I think that's what they want you to feel. They want you to have that sliver of a chance, like he could do it. And I think they'll lean into that heavily in the match. I'm not going to dive too deep into. I'll save you for most of the words and your opinions on it. But I will say, with the whole tribal combat thing, I hope to see some of the elders ringside for the match. I think that would add to the tribal combat aspect. Maybe have Rikishi, some of the relatives that are still living with us, should be at ringside in some capacity to watch this, make it feel that much more familial.
Dude, they have to, especially Rikishi. Like, just from the personal aspect, like, your son's competing for the world title. Like,
Exactly.
You have to be there.
But I think Roman wins.
You think Roman wins?
I think it's a chance Jey could win, but I still think Roman wins. As for who's next, I couldn't tell you. I really don't know.
Hey, you could even, drag this out to where Jimmy Uso might have a shot in India, or Solo turns on Roman. Like, you could do a lot of this stuff, because I eventually think, like, you need to disintegrate the bloodline, have even Solo turn on Roman before you can, like, bring them all back together. Because this will eventually come back together, right?
A family reunion is in the cards somewhere, for sure. But for now, yeah, I think you're right. I think every member of the family will try to challenge Roman, and I think that is what this story will head into next. I think the bloodline story is not over. I think we're going to go into another new chapter after SummerSlam.
And only one can hope for The Rock to eventually show up. But, that's the it's the bloodlines game right now. And they got a chokehold on the business, and they're daring somebody to take it from them. As Roman mentioned in the WrestleMania press conference a few months ago, Jey Uso and Roman Reigns going main event SummerSlam. They're going to try their best. It's going to be incredible. Mike, we only have a few more minutes left, and I didn't want to, be remiss without mentioning AEW Dynamite. It's their 200th episode tonight. Reading off the card here real quick, we got Toni Storm versus Hikaru Shida for the AEW Women's title. We got Aussie Open versus El Hijo del Viquino, and I want to say Commander for
I believe so,
for the ROH tag team titles. We got John Moxley, Trent Beretta, and Penta in Anything Goes match. So John Moxley's going to bleed. We got Chris Jericho and Konosuke Takeshita versus Sammy Guevara and Daniel Garcia. Jericho and Guevara obviously united with the Inner Circle that first episode of Dynamite. And then just announced yesterday, we had the Elite versus Jay Lethal, Jeff Jarrett, and Satnam Singh in a sick man tag match. I'm a little disappointed in the card. I thought it was going to be more of a tribute to the first episode. Are you feeling the same vibe or no?
Yeah, I'm feeling the same vibe. When the matches were announced, and then we have the final card tonight, and we're kicking off soon. Yeah, just a lot to be felt here. Toni Storm and Hikaru Shida has my entrance. Certainly Moxley, Beretta, and Penta is going to be a good anything goes match. You're right on the money there. I put my whole mortgage on Moxley bleeding. The Elite Lethal Jarrett Singh match puzzles me, head scratcher. And there's not enough, in my personal opinion, of the wrestlers from AEW when they first debuted all those 4 years ago in 2019. There's not enough of the day one guys and gals on this 200th episode card. In my personal opinion, 200 episodes, you've got plenty of talent. Where's some of the people that were in some of those first matches? Yeah, you got Sammy Guevara, Jericho, Moxley, Kenny, the Bucks, but not that many, as much as I would have liked to have seen.
You could have also done something with the Inner Circle, which, I mean, they got Jericho Guevara. Where's Jake Hager fit into that? You could have also done something with Dark Order, especially
Yeah.
with, paying a little tribute to Brody Lee, because he was a big part, not necessarily the first episode, but he was a big part of the original inception of AEW in those early years. Do you have a favorite Dynamite moment that sticked out to you in the first 200 episodes?
Man, you're putting me on the spot here. I tried to think about this all day today, and there's been a few really, really good Dynamite cards, and there's been a few that have left me, wanting for more. Kind of how I feel about this one. I think one of my favorite moments has definitely been when Matt Hardy debuted. Even though it was strange and there was no crowd, I thought his debut was really funny. And I loved when Jericho went into the giant pool of orange juice.
Oh yeah, the Mimosa Mayhem match.
The Mimosa
With
Mayhem match.
Dude, that's incredible. Yeah, Matt's debut coming as a swerve because they thought he was the leader of Dark Order. Then comes Mr. Brody Lee. I went to one Dynamite over in Charlotte, North Carolina, and that was the
Nice.
Chris Jericho Nick Gage match.
Ooh, with
And the pizza
oh my
cutter.
goodness.
So that was a great night. It was a very big adventure getting there. We'll have to talk about that another time. But Mike, that we're wrapping up from the Wrestling Wednesday card with the Drop the Mic Wrestling podcast. Where can they find you, man?
They can find me here, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, Google, all of your favorite places to check out podcasts. You can follow me on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok, begrudgingly, MOWM_podcast. Hopefully, pretty soon we'll have some video podcasts for the people, similar to you guys here on the Tobacco Sports Radio Network. And, people will get to see more of this beautiful face. But really, Mike, I really appreciate you asking me to come on the show. I absolutely love talking wrestling with you. And I hope we could do this again in the future. Maybe on my show, maybe again on your show, maybe both.
Yeah, I would love to return the favor. Just let me know a time, day. We gotta talk more wrestling. Like this is Mike and Mike, but the wrestling version. Like
But the
this
wrestling.
this was written in the stars for us to do. But Mike, couldn't thank you enough for being a part of the SummerSlam preview episode for the Drop the Mic, episode 65 for us as well. Mentioned on the Tobacco Road Sports Radio YouTube channel. Be sure to subscribe to that. We got all the Drop the Mic episodes on there. We got Out of Pocket with Michael Davis at 4 live this Friday, talking about NFL, NBA. We might drop a little wrestling segment there because of the weekend. Of course, big Cowboys fan. So no pro Eagles talk on the show. That is my rule. But Mike, thank you so much. Go get his stuff with the Mouthing Off with Mike Wrestling podcast. Don't forget to subscribe to him. Don't forget to subscribe to the Tobacco Road Sports Radio's YouTube channel. And wherever you do, don't drop the mic. We will see you all next week.